Tonight, we're uncovering some dirty details from the investigation of the so-called sex church. What exactly was happening behind those closed doors?
This was no more a church than Cuba is Fantasy Island.
And look at how angry they are. When you have a culture where sex is that repressed, you get the most angry culture.
The Phoenix Goddess Temple was created in Phoenix, Arizona by Tracy Elise, who is also known as the Mystic Mother.
When I found Tantra, I knew that I could be a priestess of the Mother.
The temple celebrates women's sexuality in a really radical way that most religious institutions don't do.
Got my crystal lingam to teach men how to bring this into service for the women in their life.
Tracy was running what she believed was a place of worship.
It's not about sex. That's a smokescreen.
To others, this place was a brothel in disguise.
Police accuse a church called the Phoenix Goddess Temple for running a house of prostitution masquerading as religion.
This is a story about someone who believes that their spiritual practice involves sex.
And what one person's willing to do to defend their beliefs.
I've done nothing wrong and I've done nothing illegal. I have done my faith.
Is this place a temple or a brothel? Is Tracy a priestess or a sex worker? We wanted to know what was really going on.
My name is Leah Hennick. I'm the co-creator and co-host of the podcast Witnessed, Mystic Mother.
I'm Katie Hennick. I'm the co-creator and co-host of the podcast, and Leah is my sister. So Leah had read this article about the Phoenix Goddess Temple in Phoenix, Arizona.
I remember becoming really fascinated about the temple and about its founder, Tracy Elise.
Hi, I'm Tracy Elise, Mystic Mother of the Phoenix Goddess Temple.
Tracy calls the Goddess Temple a neo-tantric temple.
Neo-tantra is an Americanized Western interpretation of Tantra. It focuses on the healing powers of sexual energy. Tracy had published a lot of videos on her YouTube page of her explaining certain things about the temple.
Some people are confused and they will phone up and ask, do you do massage? We do not offer massage, we offer whole body healing.
Tracy is striking.
She's this really charismatic, larger-than-life figure.
Men have so much power at their root. Well, a lot of things go wrong because men don't know what to do with that magnetic power.
Tracy thought she was making the world a better place through this worship of the sacred feminine.
And of course, the mother's triangle is the downward V through which all living things enter the physical plane.
They had sex ed classes, Sunday worship services, and the main offering were these one-on-one sessions. These sessions were performed by what they called goddesses and involved touch and some sort of sexual act, usually. We scoured records we could find to try and get in touch with some of the goddesses. A lot of the goddesses we spoke with described her as charismatic, and that when they first met her, there was like this energy around her that made them feel a certain way. The people receiving the sessions were called seekers. They were mostly men.
A lot of people have looked at what's happening at the temple and they think it's about sex. It's not about sex. That's a smokescreen.
So prostitution is defined as the exchange of money or goods for sex.
It's criminalized in the United States, except for certain counties in Nevada.
A lot of people thought Tracy was using her beliefs and spirituality as a cover for being a madam and running a brothel.
Phoenix Goddess Temple offers sacred sexuality, but it's more like New Age prostitution with a psychological slant.
It didn't totally help her case that the temple had what they called a suggested donation for any whole body healing.
It was $204 for an hour, $303 for 90 minutes.
Tracy and the goddesses advertised on Backpage.com, which was an adult classifieds website where sex work services were advertised. That doesn't seem super religious or spiritual in nature that they're posting those kinds of ads.
They kept operating unbothered. But what was happening was the police had launched an undercover investigation into the temple.
And police accuse a church called the Phoenix Goddess Temple for running a house of prostitution masquerading as religion.
In early September of 2011,
The Phoenix PD and SWAT team stormed the building.
police found envelopes full of cash, binders labeled seekers, sex toys.
Cops in Phoenix and Sedona busted about 20 people on Wednesday, saying their temples are nothing more than brothels.
Many of the goddesses felt not only was it traumatic, but it was this excessive show of force. So at this press conference, the police shared their findings.
Instead of Johns, they were called seekers. Instead of sexual intercourse, it was called sacred union.
They said this is prostitution and it's breaking the law.
33 people were indicted. Everyone took a plea deal except for Tracy.
I've done nothing wrong and I've done nothing illegal. I have done my faith. I have done my religion.
Morning world, it's Tracy Elise and I'm here in Phoenix about to go to court today.
Tracy really felt that the state was infringing on her right to freely practice her religion, and so she was going to take this to court. Tracy represented herself. There's a lot of videos of her preparing for the trial.
Yeah, I'm just gonna show all the legal stuff. Oh my gosh, there's the boxes. I've got 8 of those boxes.
So the trial was 48 days long. Our team listened to almost all of that court audio.
And we're going to demonstrate for you, ladies and gentlemen, that the Phoenix Goddess Temple was not a house of worship. It was a house of prostitution.
The prosecution was trying to prove that money was being exchanged for sex.
If it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, and swims like a duck, it's probably a duck.
I am not a prostitute. I am not a massage parlor lady.
She wanted to take a stand for the goddess.
3 days in court in a row, just about fried my matrix, because everything is proof-based and none of it's based on the truth of your soul.
This question came up a lot of who is the victim.
Tracy maintained that all the women there were consenting adults, that there were no victims.
The state was trying to prove that some of the goddesses had bad experiences at the temple and felt coerced or manipulated by Tracy.
Will you define again for me the victims that you're talking about? Are you speaking of the prostitutes? Is that what you're speaking?
Yes. I like to refer to them as victims.
There's this idea in our society when we talk about sex work that no one would choose to be a sex worker. You're forced or manipulated into becoming one.
It's especially a paradox when the victim or the supposed victim is then criminalized.
What we found was that for some women, this idea of a goddess temple, a place where sex was sacred and free of shame, was a dream fulfilled. And another woman we spoke with felt like they were coerced into doing whole body healing sessions. It's not simple, it's not black and white.
Just into our newsroom, a guilty verdict in the so-called Goddess Temple trial. A jury finding Tracy Elise guilty on all 22 counts.
Tracy was sentenced to 4.5 years in prison.
There's a lot of questions that were brought up.
Who decides when a religion is valid or not? And why is sex work criminalized? A lot of the women we talked to expressed that the most traumatic part of their involvement with the Phoenix Goddess Temple were their interactions with the police and the impacts of their criminal charges. Tracy was released from prison in 2019, and she continues to appeal her case. And she's still just as passionate about her beliefs.
Goddess bless.